Good morning. Today we'll discuss one of the poems of Emily Dickinson, that is, I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died. So, when we read the poem, we see a scene and an atmosphere where someone is dying. Though it is really a bit of surprise for us that the speaker is writing a poem about someone dying, but the speaker starts the poem by mentioning the sound of a fly which cuts across the heavy and silent air of the deathbed. The speaker again, or the poet, leaves this image behind and starts talking about the room where she is dying. Actually, we find that she is talking about her own death. She tells us about the people that are standing around her at, her dying moment and who are calmly preparing themselves for the final journey of her life. She even tells about giving away the last of her possessions to show us that she is almost ready to leave this life. Then suddenly we see that there is a fly, which is like an intruder in that moment, which is totally unnecessary. This wasn't exactly a happy poem to start with, but it was a sort of peaceful. When that fly shows up, everything changes and things get stranger and a lot quiet and uncomfortable. So we see that the poet is trying to create a scene of a dying person's room, and where a fly has come and intruded the silence of that room where everyone is preparing for the last journey of the dying person. So we'll start with the poem. I heard a fly buzz when I died. So, first, the opening line give the scene that what is going or what is the poem about. She starts with the sounds. We can feel the buzz of the fly, and only the three words, they seem like an afterthought, as if she was saying, I heard a fly buzz, and then suddenly, when I died, are the words which change the whole scene. It seems like a ghost story, and we realize that the speaker of the poem is dead and telling us about the fly after her death or beyond the grave. So, the associations between flies and death, everybody knows, is very gross, because when a person dies and the flies come over the dead bodies. So, she is letting us know that this isn't going to be the same peaceful nature poem about a fly. It is really a gross sort of poem. So, the stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. Then suddenly we move away from the fly, and the speaker starts to tell us a little more about the scene of her death. When she sets up for us in these lines that what is the atmosphere of the room. The poet really wants us to feel how heavy and quiet and the air must be when in a room where someone is dying. The lack of sound in the room is the exact opposite of the harsh, annoying buzz of the fly. She emphasizes this with a simile, and she compares the stillness of the room to the stillness during a lull in a storm. Means we know that whenever there is a storm, we know that there is a stillness before that storm, silence before the storm. And so things are quiet, and but they are also packed with energy. that something has just happened and something is going to happen again. So the there is a lull between the heaves. What are those heaves? That she leaves us to imagine. They might be the rush and bustle of life followed by the mysterious journey of the death, or they might be the literal heaves of a dying person, means the heavy breath as their body goes through the final spasm of life. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm. Now that we have felt the mood, or we know about the mood, the sounds, and the atmosphere, we can see a little bit more of the poem. The speaker tells us that the eyes around had wrung them dry. That's the information that she is giving, but it's all we need to build an image of the friends and family that must have been around her at her deathbed. When she tells us that eyes are dry, we learn a lot about the particular moment of this poem. It shows that people have been crying and their eyes were wet, but now they are not. It means that maybe a long period of time has passed. Maybe they are now exhausted or resigned that of the ultimate event, or now even at peace. So we can see that there is also an emotional lull between all of the crying that comes before death and all that will come after it. Even the breathing of the watchers has evened out as they are preparing themselves quietly for what is about to happen. They have prepared themselves for that. So, for the last onset, when the king be witnessed in the room. So, what we are probably expecting and what those dry eyes are probably watching is death. So, this is the moment when things change forever, when a person is really gone, and when his or her chest heaves the last breath. That is the last, there's a sort of spasm which shows the last breath. But Dickinson is always sneaky about these things and wraps up her images in mystery. She tells us that what we and the family and the dying patient are waiting for is the moment when the king be witnessed in the room. Now, what is the king about, and what is the story about the king, and who is the king over here? Again, we can't be absolutely sure if it is about her own death or what it is all about. It would be hard for a reader to see this capital K for the king. Maybe she is talking about a king or about God. But as we know that Dickinson is not a very religious poet, she could have said the Lord or even Jesus if she wanted to make the point clearer, or maybe just the king who is waiting for his death. I willed my keepsake signed away, what portion of me be assignable, and then it was. Now suddenly she switches the point that she was discussing. We have just heard about a king, and now we were expecting the big event. Instead, now Dickinson backs off that point and the speaker talks about giving away her possessions. This image is a bit sweet and sad. So in her final act, the dying speaker is giving up all the little things she had possessed during her life, as she doesn't need them anymore. Some part of herself and her life will stay behind with these small souvenirs that she leaves in this world, and that's the part that she refers to as assignable, which means that she is able to be give, which she is giving to someone else. So now we see that suddenly something new is about to happen. So Dickinson is setting up a little different environment. There interposed a fly. So suddenly, when she was preparing to give away her things and just moving to her next life, suddenly a fly comes over there. It brings a break into the poem and interrupting the quaint atmosphere of the deathbed. Now, Dickinson tells us that this little fly interposed. That means that came between two things. So it's an important word, interposed. It tips us off that this fly is an intruder. She has interrupted the silent moment of her last moments in this life. By interrupting the calm of the moment, it changes the course of the poem. Earlier we were thinking about calm spiritual things. Now we have to think about a fly that has intruded or that is buzzing in the silent environment with blue uncertain stumbling buzz. So this fly isn't some kind of graceful beautiful insect like a butterfly. It's not really nice to look at, and the speaker emphasizes the sound of the fly, what she calls the blue uncertain stumbling buzz. This is how we think of a fly that buzzes around and then lands and then buzzes around again. So those big dashes between the words break up the line with pauses, just like a fly breaks up its flight. The sound of the word buzz mimics the sound of the fly. So we are pulled into the moment of by this line. The speaker forces us to focus our attention on this little fly and its buzzing sound between the light and me. So here we see that the fly has interposed, means has come between the speaker and the light. What is this light? Maybe the light that the dying person is seeing, the heavenly light. On one hand, it might just be that the fly has come between the dying woman's eye and some light in the room, like a candle or some electric bulb. On the other hand, maybe she has been talking about some spiritual light, like that the king who's supposed to show up, or the Lord who has come there to take her along with him. So we see that the light is also a metaphor for what comes after death, the thing that we approach and enter when we die. It's a bit hard for us not to imagine some little thing regarding this. Then again, Dickinson almost gives us a near-death experience through these lines. The fly has messed up all the scene. We were almost moving quietly and in a somber mood towards the end of her life. Then the fly showed up and wrecked the whole scene. And then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see, and then just like that it's over. It's over means the life has come to an end. So the speaker tells us that the windows failed. That means that her eyes closed. What are the windows? Eyes are the windows from which we can see this world. Windows failed means now her eyes have given up and she has lost contact with the outside world. Dickinson has put up or given a twist to this moment. Could not see to see. This doubles the feeling of isolation, change, or the failure of the senses. So in a way it's haunting. Even so, it's a little hard for us to say exactly what she is describing here because we don't have any experience of this. We think this last image is meant to be hard to pin down. The speaker has crossed over to the other side or she has already died. and the experience can't be put into words. That's what is a little disturbing about the end of this poem, because first we see there's a family and quiet, and suddenly there comes a fly that disturbs. Whether it's something mysterious, nothingness, we can't say, or it's just a voice that is buzzing in her mind. So the final moment of the life are not giving a comforting image. So we see that Dickinson has tried to explain the final moments, though they seem to be a little weird, but they give us an inside or insight into the mind of a dying person. Thank you.